I reject the notion that the video game industry has always had a diversity problem. I looked at the 90s, the early 2000s, with the fact that, yeah, there was a lot of white and Asian males participating, developing, and playing games, and the reason why was because they were the only ones interested in this medium. It wasn't cool to be playing video games. It was openly mocked by pretty much everybody. Other mediums even looked down upon it. You know, they mock and make fun of it. From music, movies, radio, all of that stuff. Video games only started to become cool, I would say, around the 2000s. 2010s obviously has taken off. It's a medium that is now played by billions. So when people bring up the fact that there was so many white male leads in the early 2000s, it's also important to note that the only people playing games at the time was a lot of white males. And it was millions. It wasn't billions how it is today. That context is never brought up, but I feel it is important just to understand how the industry has changed a lot over the years. The perception about games has changed. And when you look to some of the major franchises at the time, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, there wasn't controversy or outrage with the diverse stories that were told because there was a natural progression into this stuff. From Borderlands to Gears of War to Grand Theft Auto to Mass Effect to Saints Row, Assassin's Creed 3 had a Native American protagonist. We had The Walking Dead from Telltale, one of my personal favorite games of all time. Love Lee, Clementine, some of my favorite protagonists ever. Years before that, we obviously had games like Prototype, we had Crackdown, we had Beyond Good and Evil. These were diverse stories, and there was never really any outrage, as far as I remember, about these stories. Now, in the years since, it feels like there has been like a condemnation with how the gaming industry conducted itself 15 years ago in terms of the stories that were told, and I just find that absolutely insane because it's a misrepresentation of that era. Gaming has always been extremely welcome. If you look to any of the other types of entertainment outside of in the real world or just in terms of digital stuff, I feel like it has always been the most welcome. It's just that type of culture was looked down upon, and that's why there wasn't a lot of participation from other, races and such. But that obviously has changed, and we are getting different and more unique experiences nowadays. It just feels like this industry is now going into an overdrive and trying to correct what never was a problem. I bring up that brief history lesson about the video game industry for a reason. And it's because there has been a lot of outrage and controversy surrounding Sweet Baby Incorporated, a consultancy firm in the video game industry, which, yes, has a focus on diversity and diversifying stories. Now, if you have been following any bit of conversation or anything on social media, you've probably seen headlines such as this from Kotaku. Sweet Baby Incorporated doesn't do what some gamers thinks it does. No one company isn't forcing diversity into all of your favorite video games. Wired, the small company at the center of GG 2.0. Eurogamer, Spider-Man, Alan Wake, ridiculous fishing devs speak up in support of Sweet Baby after online group claims firm pushing agenda into games it worked on. Game developer, why are Valve and Discord permitting harassment against Sweet Baby? Silence from Sony, Remedy, other studios could worsen this campaign. The Guardian, it's 10 years since GG, the industry must now stand up to far-right trolls. The Verge, the return of GG is smaller and sadder. A group of gamers have mobilized that type of campaign against a story consultant company, marginalized developers and journalists in protest of what they see as forced diversity in gaming. From Bounding into Comics, U.S. government-funded nonprofit Take This responds to Sweet Baby Incorporated backlash by calling on video game industry to clearly and unequivocally denounce GG. BBC gaming presenter calls for current Sweet Baby discourse to end with a final purge of ideological opponents from the medium. From The Park Place, government-owned Canadian broadcasting company joins Sweet Baby Incorporated misinformation campaign. So that is a lot. That is the nature of the conversation from mainstream media about this situation. So if you have been following those bylines and those headlines, you would probably have a different perception about what's actually happening. And I do want to proceed forward by mentioning another gaming outlet which actually had an interesting take about this controversy that's right now striking gaming. And it was Janice Gamer saying, "Well, we do agree with the base sentiment of gaming companies overplaying their hands per se. Unfortunately, we can't cover this particular story, more stories like it, without potentially getting punished by the PR firms hired by these same gaming companies who have to rely on getting access." So pretty much, they don't want to cover this because they feel like they may lose access because a lot of these PR firms agree with what the gaming journalists and what these headlines are saying about the situation, which is exactly why I feel like other gaming creators, I'm not going to say any names, are not speaking up about this situation at all, because they do not want to ruin relationships and they also don't want their audience to turn on them. I personally feel like that is cowardice, but that's their choice. It's probably a smart business decision in the end, because certainly these PR firms, these gaming companies are paying attention to this situation, and there are going to be blacklists made for anybody speaking out about this situation. Because yes, it is not profitable for gaming creators, YouTubers, or anybody to speak about this situation. There are consequences for that. Now, I do need to mention that there has been an interesting reaction from actual game developers, as about 50 or so of them came together and screamed event rage of the state of the industry. It feels hard to be here and pretend like everything is fine. This was a reaction to the layoffs that have been happening in the gaming industry. There's been a lot of them. I think since 2022 or 2023, it's been like it's over 15,000. It's insane how many layoffs are happening. Now, here's a video of that. I'm going to lower the volume so you don't hear screaming, but yeah, that's something that happened a couple of days ago. Cringe, I'll leave it at that, but definitely interesting reaction to the situation. And that, yes, this was a reaction also to the outrage that's going right now surrounding Sweet Baby. It wasn't just layoffs. Now, I do need people to understand that this notion or this conversation about wokeness in video games is nothing new. This is something that happened at GDC, I believe, a couple of years ago. Yeah, 2017 is the date. And white cisgender able-bodied men as the default. And there has been other rather interesting things at these conventions for game developers. So there's definitely been a movement to, let's just say, increase diversity within this industry for an industry that I don't feel it really needs that pushing. But we will continue. It is important to understand that this push is coming from figures such as this, Anita Sarkeesian, a very controversial figure in the gaming circles. When CD Projekt Red faced controversy over some elements of Cyberpunk 2077 during a demo, we had Anita Sarkeesian sending this tweet, which I feel is very eye-opening about the conversation that we're having about Sweet Baby Incorporated and other consultancy firms. I'm always available for consulting cause. It sure sounds like you might need it before the whole of the internet drags you for what sounds like some potentially that type of representations, which we all know you've struggled with in the past. And then, yeah, that type of emoji. Now, the thing is that I have an issue with is, why do certain figures such as this believe that they have the right mindset of what this industry needs moving forward? And I do feel like that is the big issue with diversity consultancy firms. It's the fact that they feel like they have the right approach. And the problem is a lot of the stuff that they have said and they have been, posting online shows that these individuals have very strong biases against certain races and genders, which is problematic, but we'll get to that as this video continues. But next, I do want to go over who Sweet Baby is, who they describe themselves as on their own website. Here we have a layout about us. Founded in 2018, Sweet Baby is a narrative development and consultation studio based in Montreal and working around the globe. Our mission is to tell better, more empathetic stories while diversifying and enriching the video game industry. We aim to make games more engaging, more fun, more meaningful, and more inclusive for everyone. Services they offer, we believe you need diverse voices to solve diverse problems. And to their next page, they have some more details about their approach to game development. They also mention that they're an inclusion-focused narrative and consultation studio. We're building a team and a process in hopes of building a kinder, more sustainable industry at scale. And again, they go into detail about the services they offer, the writing that they do, which seems to be a little expansive in terms of what they can offer, the narrative elements that they help with game developers, and then representation. They say, we believe that representation is key to connecting players and audiences, and we offer a few ways to help your team and project gain the perspective needed to make it happen. We're part of an inclusive and knowledgeable community of diverse consultants able to cover a wide range of cultural and sensitivity topics. So definitely this is a company that is all about diversity. It is all over their website, which is why gamers initially have made the assumption that, yeah, this is what they do. This is what they are all about. I mean, that's literally what they're calling themselves as. That's why when this company is now going on the, I guess you could say, the offensive with trying to say, no, we do much more than just diversity consultancy. I mean, your website doesn't really lay any of that out. It also doesn't give really any details about stuff that you've done on these projects, and specifically with projects, they've worked on some major franchises, Alan Wake 2, God of War Ragnarok. Again, it's just they mention this type of stuff they did, they just don't go into detail. Usual something, I don't even know what that game is. Goodbye Volcano High, that game. Spider-Man 2, Suicide Squad, The Crew Motorfest, South of Midnight, and a couple of others. They've also worked with Xbox, EA, Valve, Sony Santa Monica, 2K, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Warner Brothers, Rocksteady, Compulsion Games, Avalanche, Wizards of the Coast, Remedy, and so on and so forth. So they definitely have their role within the AAA gaming industry cemented. This leads us to what has been really the source of all of the controversy online. It's this Steam curator page. It has over 340,000 followers. It was formed by a Brazilian man, and it does exactly as it's titled. It tells people the games that Sweet Baby is associated with. It also mentions proof right here, but yeah, The Crew Motorfest, many of these games are listed on Sweet Baby's own website, some of them are not. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Gotham Knights, South of Midnight, I believe that is not released yet. A couple of other smaller experiences. Suicide Squad is also mentioned here. So there's nothing too controversial about this page, in my opinion. It just tells people, it's not explicitly saying there's no way you support these games, go harass the developers or anything of that kind. It says the opposite, actually. It just says steer clear of these games, and that's that. The problem is that this page got a lot more attention. We'll get to that in a second, but it is worth mentioning that there, again, has been calls to get this curator page taken down, and there is some interesting hypocrisy happening. Imagine being this weak, you need to make curated lists to tell you which games you can't play, and it is worth mentioning that, about a year ago, these same people that are saying this were making websites to take down streamers who played Hogwarts Legacy because they disagreed with the politics of the Harry Potter creator. And they wanted to go after these streamers, harass them, boycott them, and all of that stuff. So interesting hypocrisy here. But the reason why this Steam Curator page even got any attention, it's because of a Sweet Baby employee which openly called for harassment of that page. And he also ended up getting suspended on Twitter because of these calls of harassment. This individual saying, oh, this is effing normal. Steam, y'all gonna do anything about this? And then he just openly called to report the F out of this group for no reason at all, no reasoning, because the reason why the page is up because there's nothing that this individual has done wrong. But he says, anyway, report the F out of this group and report the creator since he loves his account so much, which is just insane. And this individual has only doubled down since then. He's also said a lot more awful stuff. I can't even put it all onto this video. It's going to be too long. Sweet Baby Inc. employee doubles down on call to cancel Steam Curator list and labels members as Nazis. And yeah, he did that. This individual also acknowledged him getting banned. And he said a few hundred gamers did that, and these are the individuals. They're just writing fan fiction at this point. The group still should be taken down, by the way. If not for the conspiracies, then definitely that. They're doing phonology in there. Now, it is worth mentioning, it's not just that individual with that perspective at Sweet Baby. There have been multiple other individuals with controversial tweets. We have this one. Pay me to shoot down your white male lead gaming ideas. I usually get grossed out when straight white rich people kiss, but even I think those two are pretty cute. And he said, I had a nightmare that I was a white male gamer. We also had the founder of Sweet Baby, which pretty much talked about the perspective about game development, which really does sound like they're trying to push a lot of diversity, inclusivity, which is why, again, people are very much against this company. And again, there's a belief that that type of perspective is ruining gaming, whether you agree or disagree with it. They said, well, this is what she said in an interview back in 2020. We have to look at story and narrative as one of the things that we can innovate on, like when you bring someone in from a different culture, from a different background, from a different gender, and then she acknowledges that the way we look at demographics is that we go, okay, the majority of our player base is, let's say, a white male, so we're going to make stuff for white males. But if you make something from the perspective of an Asian trans woman and it's really strong, then it will work for people. People crave new stories. If you want to innovate, even to stay current, it's not about graphics, it's about hardware, it's about opening up new perspectives for people. So I explained it as it's important to game development to diversify. It's not just part of advocacy or activism, it's going to make your games better. So that perspective obviously has been controversial in the circles of the individuals that agree with this page, and the many people that are right now boycotting Sweet Baby. But it is worth mentioning that this co-founder has also said other similar things in some videos, this one from GDC, I believe a couple years back.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
See, the issue with this is that I don't believe many people in the online gaming circles even agree with this perspective or are going to be part of the cancel culture mobs. I do think that games media is a part of that, and I definitely do think those articles from Kotaku and such, they have an impact. I don't know necessarily that they're scaring these gaming executives, but they definitely are. It's working. To be fair, it is working. I mean, it's quite clear based on the many games that have had this type of stuff the last couple of years, and the fact that there's so many different consultancy firms now popping up, not just with Sweet Baby. This is something we talked about in a separate video. If you missed it, you can check it out. But they had a Sweet Baby employee, or a former Sweet Baby employee, in which they just openly talked about how they didn't want to hire white people for a project that they worked on a couple of years ago with a separate company, which is just, it's honestly astonishing stuff. If you missed the full video, check it out. This employee also recently called it misinformation. They also went back on it, saying that they don't hate white people, but they also had a former developer who I guess worked with them saying the opposite. They said, Danny, you used to be a very good friend to me, but you have stopped taking accountability and being careful with how you navigate public online spaces. That is to say, you're not careful with your wording, and now you go about spreading a certain message. I don't believe it is true when you say you want your team to be safe. You have failed to do so with us, your first group. You put F white people on the graphic of the character I designed, and it put many of us all in jeopardy. I was being stalked and would have episodes, which, yeah, yikes there. So, yeah, that is some of the Sweet Baby employees, or supposed employees. That is their perspective on this. They have quite feelings towards white male gamers and developers, it appears. We do have this article coming from Kotaku. We talked about this at the top of the video, at least the headline, but it's pretty much a fluff piece for Sweet Baby, and it pretty much just makes the situation out to be that gamers are wrongly going after Sweet Baby, and it doesn't bring up at all the fact that some of the nasty things that the Sweet Baby employees have said, and how they really sparked this controversy with bringing up the Steam curator list and then asking people to report it. It doesn't mention any of that at all, and there's a certain reason why. We'll get to that in a second, but like I said, it is a fluff piece. It interviews Sweet Baby, and they're like, no, we're so much more than just doing diversity consultancy. And I mean, when you look at their own website, it's hard to walk away with anything, I mean, the notion that they aren't about that, because it's all over, it's plastered everywhere. So I believe that honestly, that is their fault for making themselves out to be that. Now, it is worth mentioning that this article does have some quotes from developers saying that that's not at all what Sweet Baby did. Again, there really isn't too many examples, unfortunately, and there is some hypocrisy we'll get into in a second, but it is also worth mentioning that this reporter for Kotaku mentioned that they infiltrated the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Discord server, because that is something that existed. I think it had 2,000 members, and it was just, it's kind of cringe the way that they go about this, the reporting and how they're making it out to be. They ended up getting banned from it, but they say, if anyone would like to chat about this Discord and the Steam page, let me know. Is there a reason why many of you don't have your name pictures associated with your accounts on here, which is just a dumb thing to say with online people. There's some other stuff I can't read in Spanish. Just curious if anyone would speak to their creation of this server, the Steam page. Hello, would anyone in this group be willing to answer a few questions for a Kotaku story? The problem is that this reporter already had their mind made up with what they were going to report on. Now, it does need to be mentioned that this individual got community noted here because some people responded to the Kotaku story, the article right here, with bringing up the fact that Kim Belair and some of the other Sweet Baby employees have said some nasty things about white people. And then this Kotaku reporter saying, hi, you can't be racist against white people, thanks for tuning in, which is just absolutely insane thing to respond with, and it shows why this is just activism and not journalism. They already had their minds made up. They did not care about accurately reporting about this situation. Now, this Kotaku reporter did have some other interviews she did. Here's one, I believe, on a YouTube channel, and this is what she had to say.
I think that the people who made that Discord and who made that Steam page and who are arguing in my Twitter are kind of trying to act like, well, we're so clever because we made sure to take out language that made it clear that we didn't want black people in games or didn't.
I do want to mention one thing. They do love hitting on the fact that this is just a white gamers, grouping up, while the fact that this was formed by a Brazilian man. And it is also worth mentioning that it is not just a bunch of white gamers that are jumping on this. This is industry-wide, with all kinds of different voices speaking up about the dissatisfaction with the nature of the industry, with a lot of the games that are now coming out with, which, have been associated with Sweet Baby and other consultancy firms like them.
Didn't want people of color in games. We just said that we want to be aware of this company and aware of what games they're working on so that we can make an informed decision and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, I don't think that you think you're being as smart as like you believe you are, because everybody with any sort of sense can read between the lines as to what you're doing. And then even if you were pulling it off well enough on Steam that it seems like you're not violating the TOS technically, and you're not, openly being a hate campaign, you spend 5 minutes in their Discord, and that's really what drove it home for me.
Also, I will mention the fact that she does not provide any major examples of any of this word right here at all from that Discord server. There's nothing specifically that is brought up that is overtly, oh my god, this is what game. That's not at all. Because that's not at all what this movement has been about, as far as what I've seen. Now, again, this Kotaku editor, as this headline says, she lies about Sweet Baby Inc. backlash during CBC radio appearance, claiming Steam curator list was made to prevent people from buying and playing these games, which is not at all what this list is even about. We did have another article coming from The Verge, which is, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the video. I won't need to read the headline about it, but this reporter, interestingly, after the publication of this article, which tries to dismiss this movement as being something that's extremely small, doesn't mention the fact that it's over 340,000 strong. Well, this is what she went back to the Discord server for Sweet Baby, and then she wrote like an essay trying to talk. It's insane. This is journalism. This is supposed to be journalism. It's activism, really. But she said, I hope those y'all with an open mind realize that Sweet Baby is not your enemy. I hope you realize that woke is also not your enemy, and that your group's continued crusade against woke makes you look bigoted. I hope you understand. Again, this is supposed to be a journalist for a publication. I hope you understand that non-sexualized depictions of women, the inclusion of people of color and queer people in the games themselves, making them and writing about them is a net positive for gaming, something to be celebrated, not memed, and nobody has an issue with that. That's not even anything to do with the discussion. It's just about the inauthenticity about a lot of this and the forcing of it. I hope more of you, like you've done here, actually talk to people you disagree with. What makes me sad is that this is a pattern of behavior that can really destroy people's lives. You have this group of like-minded people assembled in common cause. Now, besides the articles that we just went over and the journalists associated with them, many others have, again, taken to social media in full-on agreement that this is a harassment campaign. All of them, of course, neglecting to mention that there is a lot of that coming from the other side with Sweet Baby employees as well. Again, misrepresenting the situation and neglecting to mention the fact that a Sweet Baby employee started this all off by trying to dox the Brazilian individual who started that Steam curator page. But yeah, all of these posts, harassment campaign, aggressors claiming victimhood is fascism 101. In a just world, these clowns would have their Steam accounts turned off, their PlayStations bricked, and get booted from any respectable social platform, and it goes on and on. Alyssa, the journalist from that Kotaku piece, did say, if you aren't sure this is a harassment campaign, just look at the content, look at how many sock puppet accounts flock to comments on posts, look at the language in those comments, look at the images they're sharing, the way that they're manipulating pictures of women. And I will say there's a lot of terrible stuff that is being posted, but there's also a lot of terrible stuff coming from those Sweet Baby employees that I believe is unacceptable in any capacity, and it is really what started all of this outrage. But of course, I will not find any of the things that people have said, any threats or any of that stuff. This is stuff I've experienced in the past. It is horrific stuff. Again, this individual is saying not at all white, that type of behavior. It goes on and on, comparing this again to 2014 with GG. They'll claim that this isn't a harassment campaign, that they are trying to defend themselves or whatever. Yet if you take a moment to scroll through the replies, it's obvious that this isn't the case. This is just angry a-holes and bigots attacking someone 24/7. And it is also important to understand that this individual said that white people can't be racist. And yeah, she's gotten a lot of criticism, especially for the fluff piece that she has written about the situation, which neglects to mention vital pieces of information information about this ordeal. Again, it goes on and on. So many different accounts bringing up stuff. In the wake of GG, there was a truckload of powerful dudes in games that regretted not saying anything before it spiraled. Just check a couple of their feeds right now, and they're not condemning what's going on now either. LOL. And more individuals. The harassment against not only Sweet Baby folks, but also anyone trying to explain how consultancy works generally, or how they particularly have worked with SB, or otherwise reporting on what's going on, speaks for itself. So we know the playbook, this opportunism, this ignorance. Now, another game developer, actually this is a reporter for Game Informer, saying, if you're harassing game devs and journalists because an individual developer called out an intentionally incendiary Steam group, oh my gosh, then you really need to come back down to earth. A few people with large followings are stoking the fires for money and engagement. That's it. And that's actually the perspective a lot of these journalists are now having, that a lot of the people that are reporting on this, I guess in favor of Sweet Baby, are doing this for money. Another account, this actually is a Gearbox developer, which sided with Sweet Baby, saying, I see this argument all the time against DEI and consultancy, and it just highlights the total misunderstanding of what being a good writer is. This is coming from a Borderlands 3 writer. I'm going to zoom into my face. Borderlands 3 writer talking about being what a good writer is. Yeah. But he did respond. This is what he's responding to. Somebody saying, a good narrative writer of any skin color can write a good character with another skin color without needing consultants. If your studio can't do that, get a better writer. You don't somehow max out your stats and learn how to write every conceivable character, plot, or prose style. And he furthermore said, just further evidence that 99.99% of the people spewing this crap have never created a single thing in their lives that they're proud of, and the rest are just straight up that word. So that's a Gearbox developer's perspective. This is coming from another journalist, saying the rise of the reactionary influencer machine and the immediate and obvious monetary power it brings the grifters and the platforms that monetize them means bad actors need exceptionally little to start shadowboxing towards profit. Again, that this is what they think this is all about. We did see this coming from another games journalist, which ended up getting community noted because he's lying about the situation, saying we reached out to Valve and Discord multiple times to ask how a group using their platform to target a company was within the bounds of their terms of service. No answer back yet. And yeah, this is what the community note says. The owner of Sweet Baby Inc. detected Cabridis created the page to show the games SBI worked on. It was created in January. The calls to report the list started with Chris Kindred, Sweet Baby employee. He was banned by X for 6 days for harassment. The only person that has faced punishment because he's literally the only one he's the one who started all of this. And unfortunately, games media doesn't want to report on any of that. Now, we will continue. Game developer, the same journalist we just talked about a second ago, the one who said this tweet and ended up getting community noted, now wrote another article calling for Sony, Remedy, and other studios to speak out about this situation, which, again, they are pushing for the gaming industry to do something, and the gaming industry thus far has not done anything because they don't want to feel the wrath of the gamers, because there's many of them that are siding with this situation with against Sweet Baby. Now, this is another inaccurate post. This is coming from a game developer saying, as a person who advocates for diversity in games, this whole thing is laughable. We have had exactly one female protagonist in the top 25 best-selling games of the last 3 years. That list also includes only one Latino. That's not forced diversity. This is no diversity at all. That is just a blatant lie, acting like this gaming industry has made zero progress at all with, and also the fact that like 70 to 80% of the games that are now made have both a female and male option. So this is just blatant lying about this industry and the games that are selling. We also have this post, game companies, this is the best time for you to make a statement about your commitment to DEI. This is the best time for you to support your developers and reassure them you won't bow to the mob. We will remember the companies that stayed silent when we needed them most. This is a previous Blizzard, Warner Brothers, and Ubisoft developer. Just insane. They definitely are very much trying to get the game companies to go after gamers and the perspective about the situation, but thus far there has been silence on this. Another GameSpot editor saying, once again, asking gamers to grow up. We had another individual responding to the situation saying all he did was make a list of, okay, he's comparing it to World War II. This individual's saying the biggest piece of cognitive dissonance and the counter argument is that all the guy did, the Brazilian guy, the guy who started that Steam curator list, was make a list. It's like saying all he did was make a list of the Jewish people in his neighborhood and post it in plain sight of the SS headquarters. What's wrong with that? And yeah, he went there. Zoom in on my face. Just, I'm going insane with how these individuals are approaching this situation. The lying, okay. And then, yes, one of the main individuals that has been bringing this situation to light is a former Blizzard developer, Grums. He's been very vocal about this on social media, and he got called out by another Blizzard developer, an active one working on Overwatch, saying, "I'm not going to take the word of the dude who tanked his own studio and hasn't been relevant in the game industry for over a decade. Kern is a terminally online troll, and this is pure culture war grifting for engagement all the way down." Then this was another developer who's working at Insomniac on this. I believe it's a Wolverine right now, saying, "Anyone consider that the games are made by large teams of diverse people, all looking to see themselves in the media we're making? Also, what if DEI isn't an agenda, but a reflection of what's actually happening in the real world outside your window?" And then I did find some of the responses rather interesting. Clifton Duncan saying, "Anyone consider that games have featured everything from animals to aliens, and that most gamers and developers aren't narcissists who must see themselves in everything? Also, what if DEI is an agenda pushed by losers with no connection to the real world outside their windows?" Jesus. And then another individual saying, "Have you considered that gaming has always been diverse and that you are trying to gaslight everyone into believing that it's only now starting to be?" Which is the only correct answer to this post, in my opinion. Well, maybe the other one that we just talked about. But definitely it does feel like games media is failing their audiences with misrepresenting this entire situation. We will continue again. We talked about this at the beginning of this video. Department of Homeland Security funded Take This. They put out a document demanding that game companies denounce GG2. And we also saw the fact that this is what they have posted in the past, this organization. This is from one of their, I guess, conferences or such. "Mainstream games soft sell white that, lack of industry diversity, privilege the white male gamer, engendered misogyny, hardcore gamers in the manosphere, normalizing..." This is just insane stuff. These are the organizations that are trying to, I guess, side with Sweet Baby with all of this. It is also worth mentioning, some people have been asking, where's the proof that Sweet Baby is some of the stuff that they have done? Well, we have horrific things that... Again, we don't know necessarily if Sweet Baby was involved, but some of the games that they have been associated with definitely have some eye-opening things involving diversity. We have John Stewart. We have a very interesting description about him, which is in which the description in Suicide Squad says he's kind of a guy that makes you think, oh, one of the good ones, which definitely an eye-opener with that one. And then there's also Wonder Woman, in which mentions toxic masculinity as a point, which is, it's honestly just hilarious to see that put in an actual work of entertainment. This is only stuff that you see on social media and those who are addicted to social media. We also did see this one. This is a funny thing from the Ratchet and Clank, another Insomniac game.
I hope your memory be short. Girls in respectable positions.
Girls in respectable positions of power.
Girls in respectable positions of power.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a real thing in that game, but oh my gosh. And there's also some other design decisions, which has caught in the eye of a lot of gamers. But this was also a moment in Spider-Man which caused a lot of controversy. It's the Spanish, and as this individual says, for the English speakers here, basically what they did is that, do you know, then the TH, the X, because a lot of, again, those California individuals... Some of you, I love you, but some of them, oh my gosh, with that X. There's no Hispanics that I know. I have a lot in my family. None of them use that as actual language. It's inauthentic, and it actually is offensive to a lot of Hispanics that speak the language. But yeah, this is literally what this is said. And it is worth mentioning that the individuals, the company that was hired to do the Spanish for this game, came out and said that Sony forced them to do that. This isn't something that they actually wanted to do. This is what Sony asked for, which tells you all you need to know about what's going on inside of Insomniac Games. And again, Sweet Baby was associated with this, and people will put the blame on them for it, right or wrong. This also worth mentioning that I believe this is the game director of Alan Wake 2. He responded to this. This was, somebody made a point saying, the prevailing theory is that if it weren't Sweet Baby, Saga Anderson would have been portrayed by a white woman. Is that true? Well, it's impossible to say, but doesn't matter. And then they said the individual did a great job in the role. And a lot of people are also bringing up the fact that they did an interview in which there seems to be there's a misunderstanding, definitely. Along with working with story and narrative consultants Kim Belair of Sweet Baby Inc. to refine the character, voice, and story arc, the key creators of Alan Wake 2 also worked extensively with the actress playing Saga Anderson, who offered suggestions and other insights that led to the character in the final game. I think it took us a long time to find Saga. It was an interesting process. We had an idea in our head on what the character could be, but then as the character evolves over time, being open to changing her based on input from the actors and from external sources really opened things up for us. And there's many people wondering, what do they mean by changing the characters? Or changing the character's identity and their characteristics. And then when it came to making Saga Anderson, it was about ensuring that one of the leads, a person of color who is core to the story, had a clear role that complements Alan's side, but also works independently as its own experience. And many have been taking this quote as maybe that was that they changed the race, but it is worth mentioning again that the Alan Wake 2 director said it's absolutely not what happened. There's been some other examples that has caused some controversy. We had this individual, again, I believe this is a journalist, saying when people complain that Suicide Squad killed the Justice League is forced diversity, they're talking about the shark, right? And that he's mocking. But this individual, realistically, said probably has more to do with the fact that with the direction of Sweet Baby Inc. CEO, they randomly race swapped a character with the clear intention of using him as a novelty for brownie points on Twitter. And that is pointing out that Deadshot, he's often been white, although I believe that Suicide Squad movie years ago had Will Smith, I think, portraying the character, so it's not like it's uncommon to see it. But I do believe the Arkham franchise had a white Deadshot. I believe it's a little complicated and messy. But yeah, there's this tweet, a former developer at Rocksteady saying, after 11 years in the industry, I finally did it. A black character on the front cover of a AAA game. It's been a common thing for years, but anyway, dreams come true, y'all. And then Kim Belair responding with a clapping emoji, and then he responded saying, so glad you were present to help mold this character, Kim. But yeah, a lot of people have been recently bringing up those examples of how games are being negatively affected, maybe by the association of Sweet Baby, and the problem with the video game industry right now in 2024. But again, there's just been all kinds of commentary, all kinds of different discussion. We had this coming from, I believe this is a game developer saying, I have never in my entire career seen anyone pressure a developer to make a character more queer or less white. I have, however, seen many instances of developers being forced to change their characters to be straight and or white. You could start a list on League alone. And then another game developer saying, what's especially frustrating is that pressure from marketing and execs to change the gender or race of characters is still fairly common in AAA games. It's just the exact opposite of what angry YouTubers tell their followers. And then this is what Colin Moriarty, this is one individual gaming journalist at one point who pretty much got pushed out of the industry by a lot of other journalists who have different perspectives on politics. But this is what he said about the situation. When you're singularly obsessed with identity and oppression, when everyone at your company thinks completely identically, and when you're hostile to any and all dissent, you are what you are, whether you want it to hide it or not. This is the essence of the Sweet Baby Inc. drama, and it certainly is. And the conversation has moved on from just Sweet Baby. It is going to other consultancy firms. Forspoken consultant Black Girl Gamers appears to discriminate in their hiring practices while claiming they are being harassed. This is a piece that the Park Place put out, and they're being met to potential legal action because of this headline and this article. This is what Black Girl Gamers said in a recent tweet. They said, upon discovering these false and defamatory allegations, we've taken steps to obtain legal counsel to take action against the publication and journalists, as well as subsequent content creators who have reshared the false allegations about our organization. I'm not a lawyer, but I definitely feel like that will fail in the courts, but that's just my perspective on this. Again, not a lawyer. But it is also worth mentioning that Black Girl Gamers was met to this from a former employee saying, I can confidently say that these people are all full of crap. They do not care about diversity. They promptly kicked me out for being anti-black, aka not making an idol out of my skin color and refusing to hate white people. This is probably one of the biggest gaming controversies in years, and it is developing. This has been a lengthy video. I wanted to give an overview of the situation, but this is why 340,000 people have put their name down and are boycotting Sweet Baby Incorporated. And if it's not clear that this movement is becoming something much more than just Sweet Baby, hopefully all of the craziness that we've discussed today has made that clear. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts on this entire just crazy ordeal surrounding Sweet Baby down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future, and I'll see you later.